Hello everyone, welcome back to Abbot Public Library's YouTube channel. I'm Lauren, I'm the teen librarian here at Abbot Public Library, and today I kind of wanted to talk to you about a few of the new books we've had in our collection. So the first story I'm going to talk to you about is Fable by Adrian Young. It's also actually a Reese Witherspoon's book club pick from I think last month or the month before. In this story we follow Fable, who's a 17-year-old girl who we've discovered has been left abandoned on an island filled with thieves with very little food and very little skills in order to survive. We see in flashbacks the last, I think it's like 2 or 3 years of her life living on this island, how she has fought for everything, how she has survived the day-to-day, up until she eventually befriends this merchant that stops at the island named West. And he helps her get off the island, and she joins his crew for a little bit to find her father who had left her on the island beforehand. And so going throughout the story, we see adventures on the high seas where it's kind of piratey, not really. And we also like discover Fable as she discovers herself and how she has to deal with all of the things she's had to do to survive this long. And it's a really good adventure on the high seas. So if you like high seas adventures with like pirates and ships and merchants and all within like a magical world, I would definitely say pick up Fable by Adrian Young. This next one is also a kind of adventure-y slant, but without the magical element. It's more historical. It's called Magnolia Sword, A Ballad of Mulan by Sherry Thomas. Now, as you've probably noticed, it is a Mulan-based tale, but it's not like the Disney movie at all. It's set more in the historical time period of Mulan, of the real-life woman. Mulan in this tale has been raised since birth to honor a family duel that happens between between two different families, hers and another's. And she's spent her entire life building up to this moment, only to come out that I think it's like a few weeks before the legendary duel is supposed to happen, all the male citizens are conscripted to fight in this war. When she hears that every family has to give one able-bodied man to the war effort, she decides to conscript herself and join the war efforts as a man, or disguised as a man. And because she was already trained as this legendary warrior, as a sword fighter, master martial artist, she catches the eye of the Duke, who is touring through the army ranks, and she ends up joining his crew because she is so well trained already. Come to find out, this Duke has some similarities to that family she was supposed to be dueling against, and well, they go off and they have to figure out their family differences, personal problems, along with the overarching story of this war that they are in a part of and right in the middle of. But it's if you like historicals and you don't really want like the American or European historical slant, I would definitely recommend the Magnolia Sword. The author includes like a great author's note in the back that's about the language of the Chinese culture and the different dynasties and the researches that she put into when creating the story based off the actual real-life Mulan. So once again, that's the Magnolia Sword, A Ballad of Mulan by Sherry Thomas. So this next one is still kind of historically slanted, so if you like historical fiction with magic. This one, it's called The Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. It's set in 1983 in London. So if you have never really read any kind of like historical London set in the 1980s, this might be kind of fun to read. I had no idea like a lot of the culture elements, and I had to look it up while I was reading, and it was really fun. But it follows Susan, who finds herself kind of thrust into this world of booksellers. And so they are the typical booksellers that we think of today, where it's you go into a bookstore and they sell you books. But also there's the magical slant here is they also are kind of guardians of this kind of fairy tale-esque world between worlds, where there's the Fey world where there's magic all the time, there's that border, and then there's our world. And they help make sure that things crossing over aren't malicious or will disrupt the natural order of things. And these guardians, there's left-handed booksellers and there's right-handed booksellers. Right-handed are more scholarly, I guess you could say. They keep the records, they do the research, they follow along all the mythology of the worlds. And then the left-handed booksellers are the warriors. They are the ones actually fighting to keep these creatures in their in their proper worlds, and also to protect our world from them. And Susan finds herself right in the middle. She walks in on one of the left-handed booksellers, Merlin, as he is fighting off a sipper, which is kind of a vampire, not really, or a type of vampire, I guess you could say, just not the mythology that we would think of. And it comes to find out that as she discovers this, she realizes that her history and her life has been a lot more involved in this fairy world than she had originally suspected. So with Merlin and her sister Vivian, Susan has to discover all these things about herself, and track down what other powers that she might have, and her father, or where her family comes from, and what her history is like, who is her father, where does she come from, all the while trying to actually survive as people try and capture her for their own nefarious means. So if you like kind of like the history of like the 1980s mixed in with a little bit of magic and London, pick up the Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. So sticking with like the historical slant, this next one is actually a graphic novel called Goldie Vance, by Hope Larson, Brittany Williams, and Sarah Stern. It follows the adventures of Goldie as she solves mysteries set around the hotel her father manages. She is a car valet. She's very car-centric. It's kind of set in the 1950s, more like the 1950s aesthetic. So it's like the diners, the big cars, the drag races, and it's a really cute mystery story as she helps the local detective solve mysteries that happen in the hotel. Like I think one of them's a mystery, missing jewel from one of the residents. Another is she helps locate a missing child. She solves drag race. She involves herself in drag races. She has a crush on the local vinyl store clerk. Her mom is one of those show mermaids. So it's really cute, really adventurous. And if you like maybe like the 1950s aesthetic, or if you feel like Scooby-Doo or any of those other mysteries that are just like good fun to read or good fun to enjoy, check out Goldie Vance. So this last one is a bit more contemporary than the other ones have been, and you might have actually already read the original novel of this. It's Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, illustrated by Danica Novgorod, I believe is how you pronounce it. I could be wrong, but it is actually the graphic novel of Jason Reynolds' novel Long Way Down. And the reason why I'm recommending this, you might have read the novel already for school, like I said, and you might already are familiar enough with Jason Reynolds' work or the title that you know what this is about. But even if you've read the novel, I definitely recommend reading the graphic novel as well, just because the illustrations bring his words to life so much, especially because the original novel is in verse, and so you get that poetic language with these beautiful illustrated watercolors. But if you haven't read Long Way Down, or you've never heard of it, you're not sure what it's about, it follows Will, who has just watched his brother be shot down by, we assume, a rival gang. And it goes through his thoughts and feelings of witnessing this act, as well as the repercussions of what happens to his mom, and then like the struggles he has to deal with his own his own feelings about this event, as well as what he considers the rules which young women are taught to do in America as part of their culture and their livelihood, and just the way the world perceives them. So we follow Will as he struggles with all of his feelings, and then he comes to the decision that in order to follow the rules, he has to seek revenge for his brother's death. And so he grabs a gun, and then he goes out the door to find the man that he thinks killed his brother. However, once he gets to the elevator of his apartment building and starts to go down, he starts getting visited by these ghost people from his past who have been killed in similar ways to his brother, and they talk him through different realizations that he didn't really know the full stories of how they died. He didn't really come to terms with a lot of the feelings, that the rules he was taught may not be everything that he perceived, and he begins to question everything he knew and everything that he had learned from these ghosts and from the people that raised him. It is a very real look at life as a young black man in America. It is haunting, it is gripping, and it is very beautifully told through these verses and through these watercolors. So if that seems like something you might be interested in reading, check out Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, the graphic novel, illustrated by Danica Novigraf. And those are all of the books that I have to recommend. Those are the ones I've read this month. The next book talk, next book talk will be on December 28th. You can also check out all of these right here behind me. Those are also new to the collection as well. Also, if you're interested in joining our teen advisory group, we meet every Tuesday at 3:30 on our Discord channel. I'll link the registration form down below. It'll be for Abbot, which is also the registration form you use for curbside pickup here. So yeah, if you like this video, let us know, and we'll see you next time.